Talk to your pharmacist today. Walgreens, at the corner of happy and healthy.
Zero out-of-pocket costs when billed to Medicare and full coverage supplemental insurance.
It's fun to splurge on nice things, but it's better to get those same nice things at a great value. Like a Honda certified pre-owned vehicle, the best certified pre-owned value in America, and backed by a limited warranty. Let Honda certified pre-owned take you farther. Visit hondacertified.com and search for local inventory. Honda, start something special.
Based on 2015 Vincentric Best CPO Value in America Awards analysis, applicable to 2011 to 2015 Honda model years. See dealer for limited warranty details.
Welcome to another great edition of Younger Life. Good morning. I'm Rick Federici.
And I'm Mary Anthony.
Oh, Mary Anthony. It is a beautiful edging up the eve of the holiday weekend.
I know. It's just flown up on us. It really has.
I know.
I can't get over, we're talking holiday weekend, 4th of July holiday weekend.
Talking the last day of June right now.
I know. It's crazy. So fast.
This is going to be fun because we have our good friend, the doc, back in the studio.
This
is going to be a good one.
I know. We have Dr. Baldwin today, which we love. And we're happy that he's here. And the reason why he's here today specifically is we are talking about the holiday weekend. And a lot of our pets, for one, there's heat issues, which we already know. But for two, there's a lot of summer fun things that we can do and safety things that we need to be aware of with our pets. But specifically the 4th of July, we no longer have, this dog is now passed, but we had a bloodhound that was petrified of loud noises. And he had a lot of anxiety when it came to thunderstorms or fireworks. And so I was really curious to find out some things. I know we have listeners that I've talked to that have dogs that have the same issues that kind of freak out. And so I thought, ooh, what a great topic right before the 4th of July weekend to kind of talk about what we can do to make that a little easier on all of us and our furries, so.
Yeah. And without further ado, Doc Baldwin here in the Younger Life Live Studios. Great to see you.
Thank you.
So is this something that, kind of like, educate the Younger Life Live audience? Is this something that's common with pets? Talk about it.
Anxiety just in general is common, but, we used to call things like this thunderstorm phobias and everything else. They've actually changed the name recently to just noise phobia.
Really?
To be kind of all-inclusive, or noise anxiety. Probably anxiety is a lot better than phobia because there's probably a lot of dogs and cats and other animals and people for that matter that probably get more anxious but don't get scared. So probably removing the term phobia is probably a good term. And there's a lot of things to do. Actually, when I saw the things that you guys wanted to talk about, I was like, well, that probably would have been a better topic to talk about a month ago. Especially with a couple of days right before the weekend. You're almost, if you're getting into, let's say, the trial method to try to figure out what you can do for your guys, you're almost too late right now. You really are. It's you need time. You actually need those spring thunderstorms to play with, to work with, because a lot of your dogs that have fireworks anxiety also have thunderstorm phobias. Or anxiety. I'm going to apologize in advance after just talking about the fact that term's not supposed to be used. I'll probably use it interchangeably through this whole next hour, so forgive me. And before we move on, I want to throw in a plug real quick because I know this is Parade Weekend here in Michigan City.
Yes, it is.
And then I've been asked by the free and accepted Masons down the road from the high school who do their annual pancake feed to throw in a plug here. They're doing pancakes before the parade this year, like they do every year before the Michigan City parade. So come on by. I think it's $7 or $8 for all you can eat pancake, sausage, and eggs. Children $4. So swing on by. It's just
That's a good deal.
Just down the road. Yep.
You notice how we did that right at the beginning of the show, so now we're going to be hungry for the next
I
hour.
really was thinking that's a great idea that they do that, because it's a great way to fill up. Sometimes waiting around at at the parades and getting in line, you do get hungry. That's a great way to
we keep thinking
stuff
that some of the bands that practice down at the high school are going to swing in and eat, but they never do. But they serenade anyhow. So.
Oh, that's
well,
nice.
And I want to
there
throw
we
this
go.
in because Sergeant Chris Yagelski was just down with us, and just so you know, Doctor, they, as a part of the Kitty Parade on Friday, they've tied in the pets.
Oh,
because last year they had such a smattering of pets that came in, so this year they've included the pets as a whole.
That's really cute.
So just so you know, that's great.
Good.
Animal Clinic of Michigan City, a great community partner as well. So, well, that's good. We'll talk about that a few more times easily.
Right. Well, I'm curious to know if we could start at the basics. So it's not just dogs that have this noise anxiety?
No, people have it too.
Right.
You can talk to anybody. I have a relative that hates 4th of July.
Really?
And it's actually that they love they like to see the fireworks. They just don't like the noise.
Wow.
So, it happens across the board. Our dogs and cats tend to get, as people, we don't just walk away or turn the radio up or anything else. And actually, surprisingly enough, that's always a really good thing to think about doing anyhow. Turn television on, turn the radio up. If you got a guy that has that kind of a phobia to the noise, which should be a little bit different than some of your storm anxieties, which can also come from the change in the barometric pressures. Good news about the 4th of July, it's pretty much just the noise and the lights. It's no different than when they're, and they actually have this, talking about the 4th of July, the New Year when they're shooting off fireworks and or shotguns, etc. Same thing will happen. But for just the noise anxieties, you can actually sometimes skirt the issue just with music, with the television, with etc. As long as you don't choose, you definitely don't want to choose something like Hamburger Hill, or something that's nothing but gunfire the whole time. That's not going to be good for your pets. But if you have enough time and you and it's a low anxiety, you can actually use, I believe, what is it, the 1812 Overture? Is that the one?
We'll take it. We'll take that. It's absolutely wonderful.
I think that's the one you can use. You can actually, if you got enough time and patience and energy, you can try to acclimate your pets and people, for that matter, too, to those, because you have that build up and then boom, and you start off with the almost imperceptible volume, and you do that over and over again. And nowadays with MP3s and your iPhones, and this actually really came in good when CDs came around, because you could just hit that repeat button and it could play all day long. And then what you can do as time goes on to help acclimate is you just keep slowly raising the volume. And it works some of the times. Nothing works all the time. I think that's the biggest thing with your anxieties in this case for your noise. There is no one size fits all. There's no one drug fits all, one medicine fits all, one supplement fits all, and I throw all those in and many more, because that's the truth. It's a matter of using different types of supplements, drugs, medicines, veterinary, over the counter, everything. And that's truthfully the case. It's one of my favorite analogies here when we're talking about whether it's this or arthritis or anything else, is because there's really, in this case, no one size fits all. It's almost it's like making a stew, making your chili, whatever. I don't know about anybody else, but I've never made a stew or a chili that's been the same.
Right.
They're different all the time. Well, it's the same with these guys. You take one guy, one gal, sorry about that, don't mean to sound sexist there. Take one of our furry friends, four-legged friends, and you choose something and you see what happens, and then you add something, you subtract something, you play with this, you do this, you try your the 1812 overture, you try to acclimate, you try to suppress some of the signs, and that's really all you're doing, because you can't ever take that anxiety away.
Right.
You can lessen it. And there's a lot of things to try. There's over-the-counter things. Antihistamines can be very useful. They're old, they've been around forever, and they can be useful. There are actually your storm or thunder shirts, and there's a few
That's
other
what I was
types of
gonna
things
ask about.
can be useful. And I have a lot of times where people say, well, I've done that. And I'm like, okay, have you done that? What did you say? Nothing. Okay, you saw absolutely nothing. I saw nothing. I was like, okay, have you done this? Yes, done that. I said, have you done two together? No, but if they didn't work apart, they're not going to work together. No, that's exactly wrong. You never know. That'd be like sitting there going, well, I like pineapple, I like ham, but I don't think they'll be good together. Well, there's a lot of people out there that eat the Hawaiian pizzas that would disagree with you. And I know some people that hate pineapple or hate ham, but love the Hawaiian pizzas.
Yep.
Yeah. So sometimes you got to add and subtract. And like I said, there's a lot of things out there, both veterinary, both over the counter supplements. Melatonin can be useful. Thiamine. Okay, we all know around Thanksgiving time, eat that turkey, you get that thiamine, you get a little bit groggy. And there's some truth to that. There's some fiction to that. Depends on which literature you want to read. But thiamine can be useful. And since it's an amino acid or a normal protein anyhow, it doesn't cause really any harm, because it's no different than eating a steak or eating your turkey. So you can use a lot of different things. There's some veterinary supplements out there. There's what I like to term as your brain drugs. Let's see, like your Ritalins and whatnot. And now those take a long time, and you have to have some really big anxieties in those. And I usually, when you're getting into those kind of drugs, I defer to the behaviorists. I probably should have started off our talk today with a disclaimer. I'm not a behaviorist. They actually have people that are certified animal behaviorists. Both universities do. Those are your closest, Purdue and Michigan State. And when I get somebody who's got some really good anxieties, fear anxieties, I'm going to, separation anxieties, I'm going to tear your house apart when you leave anxieties, I will usually defer down to one of the behaviorists, because when you start to get into your we'll call them brain drugs, for lack of better terms, you can cause just as much harm as good.
Right.
Because one of the ways they work in layman's terms is by making us learn better. Okay, making the dog learn better. Well, that also means they can learn bad habits better. So we can train them to be even worse if we're not doing this right. So I usually, when we get up to a point like that, I'll usually send these guys to one of the universities, because it's much safer, much better, and they actually know more about those drugs than I do.
Let's go to the Younger Life Live Star VIP hotline this hour, brought to you by the Animal Clinic of Michigan City. Everybody's throwing on their headsets. Morning caller, welcome to Younger Life Live. You have something to say to the doc?
Yes, I do. A PGI, or Pyrotechnic Gelt International, is going to be at the LaPorte County Fairs, fairgrounds, for about a week in August. And with all that loud noise going on, and it stresses not just cats and dogs out, but horses and cows and everything in the area. I'd like to actually tell your listeners, be very aware of that, because it's going to be very loud for several days. That said, what do you do about your dogs and cats that are just absolutely freaked out over all that noise? Is there any kind of a sedative you can give them?
There are sedatives, and that's, for me, I tried to use that as my last line of defense, which, like I said at the very beginning, this starting at this close to the 4th of July, it's really hard, because you got to start that in the spring if you're going to try to stay away from your sedatives. Ace Promazine's a big one that a lot of people know about, or the little yellow pill, although they started changing some of the colors to those. That's about the only actual sedative we really have that's oral or by mouth, that's not a shot or doesn't have to go in the vein or etc. I use that, like I said, as my last line of defense. Or that person that comes in the 3rd of July and says, Yeah, this happens every year, and I haven't done anything up till now, but I need something ASAP, and there's no time to try anything. I use that. I'm that sedative in effect. I try to shy away from if at all possible, because in essence, it's like taking a child that's afraid of the dark, the way it works, and sitting there going, well, I'm going to get you over this. I know you're afraid of the dark, and every night we're going to shut off all the lights and lock you in the closet. And this will help you get over this. And I say that because especially with acepromazine, it's a sedative, but it doesn't really suppress the active brain. So they lay there, and it's kind of like in that twilight. It's like that pre-REM sleep where, you might dream about falling off a cliff and start. That's kind of where they're at. So it actually probably makes things worse mentally for them. And like I said, my disclaimer about not being a behaviorist, this is my philosophy and my opinion. It makes it a little worse. So my opinion is you try to stay away from those unless you absolutely have to. Now, that actually leads into one of the few things that has come about pretty recently. There is a newer drug. It's not quite so much a sedative. It's actually not a new drug. It's a new formulation of an older drug. The older drug was a pretty potent sedative, and what they've done is they've reformulated, they've diluted, they've added in a carrier where it'll cross the mucous membranes or the gums, basically. It doesn't actually work if you give it orally. You have to almost rub it into the gums. And it's not quite a sedative, and what they found is at a diluted dose from the sedative effect. Sedative effect works at different transmitters as well as sectors in the brain, as well as nerves, different types of nerves in the brain, and the spinal cord for that matter. At the diluted dose only affects the serotonin receptors. And the serotonin receptors are one of your biggest ones for, essentially for learning. And that's why so many of your brain drugs, so to speak, are serotonin antagonists or agonists, or and now we're getting into a bunch of words that probably only a few of us know about out there. But so it only affects the serotonin agonist, and it actually does not so much sedate as lowers the anxiety level. It does have somewhat of a sedative effect, but it's very mild, and I think that's what people are after, so it's not going to stop them. It's kind of like our Thunder Shirts and our other supplements. You still have to do some other things with them. You can't just gork them and they're going to lay there and act like they're asleep. You can only do that with a really heavy dose of ACE or some injectables. But like I said, on those ones, unless you anesthetize them, the brain can still function. So all you're doing is locking them in the closet. And that's why, like I said, I like to start off real early and try to build up and use some of our non-traditional things, our non-drugs. And that's why I mentioned at the very beginning, there's melatonin, there's thiamine. You can try your antihistamines. I like Benadryl, and I think we talked about that about 2 visits ago. And take this with a grain of salt, but my advice with just about anything under the sun, or somebody calls in and says, hey, I'm having blah, blah, blah. Gosh, for so many things out there, the first question I'll ask is, have you tried Benadryl? Or the generic, car rides, in this case, storm anxieties and or fireworks anxieties. I mean, in the veterinary world, when it comes to our antihistamines, half the time we're after the side effects. I mean, that we get that added benefit with our side effects of the histamine blockage, which helps on other things, but actually from a veterinary standpoint, we're after that. Antihistamines, there's histamine release in the brain when you get anxious. It's not as big as serotonin and some of our other drugs, chemicals in the brain, but there is a histamine release. So I always try everything else. But like I said, if it's that, hey, it's Friday the 1st and I know there's going to be a problem and I haven't done anything up till now and I have to get something, yeah, there's sedatives out there.
Thanks for that call. Any other thing you wanted to ask the doc?
Well, just one more quick comment. Around the fairgrounds, there are a lot of farms. There are farm animals and everything else like that. And large animals, horses, cows, pigs, all that. Short of actually moving them out of there, do you have any suggestions on how to deal with a large number like that, or just lock them up?
That makes sense. I mean, certainly you're not going to just sedate each one of them.
There are Good news is most of our herbivores are smart enough. There are actually growing compounds in most pastures, weeds and whatnot, that can actually help reduce anxiety. They're herd bound as well, which can be a bad term or a good term. A lot of times, if they can stay within a herd situation and you have the leader of that herd situation who's a little less fearful of predators such as fireworks and people with guns and wolves and everything else, your cur dogs and your wild dogs and your neighbor's dogs and etc. If you can keep that alpha calm, sometimes that's all it takes, is letting them be in a herd, not keeping them apart. We got to be careful with that, because you have to take it case by case and manage each individual herd, so to speak. But they do really well together, and they do better together, and they will pack up and comfort each other together. And that's kind of similar to our small animals too, because if they're afraid of the thunderstorms or the fireworks and you're there, they're going to curl up next to you and shake. And that tends to drive people nuts, because they're sitting there going, well, how do I stop that? You don't. That's that normal anxiety. So you let them come to you, because you're their pack. When you're dealing with the herd, whether it's cattle, sheep, goats, horses, and actually probably your sheep and your goats are worse off than your cattle and your horses. Letting them stay together, giving them a place to feel protected is also good. And that's probably your best thing, but they're actually very intelligent. If there's something out in the pasture that they can eat on, they will. You'll see them eating some of those weeds that help calm them down. I'm not a big fan of St. John's wort, but if you got it out in the pasture, you'll actually see them at times like that, stressful times. They'll be eating your St. John's wort. So they're intelligent, and the good news is most of the time they do really well, because they're so domesticated nowadays. They're used to strange things like that, cars backfiring and etc. That your herds tend to do better than your individuals. That single horse won't do as well as the horse that has 5 buddies, and they can all sit there and put their heads in together and back to back and feel protected.
Great call. Thanks so much. Have a great holiday. Appreciate it.
Bye.
All right. Great job.
Yeah, and good information too. I wanted to touch base on some of the simpler things, like the thunder shirts that we were talking about. What is the theory behind that? Can you tell us exactly what they are and the kind of the science behind it? Is it just the firmness of being wrapped in something like that?
From the science standpoint, probably it's the hugging effect, because they're kind of you put them on and they hug. If you start to delve per se, and there's no proof or science behind this, there are some theories, and I think they're very firm set theories, but when you put this on, because of the fabric, you actually create a little bit of a static electricity within. And there are some theories that change in the let's call it the electrochemical around them. And anybody who has kids that played with magnets and iron know that there's all kinds of EMF forces. That might all be, I might have made EMF, electromagnetic forces. There we go. That's the word I want. Around all of us, whether it's a magnet or not. So we all have that kind of force. And some of the theories go that outside of the hugging effect of the thunder shirts, it might change enough of that electromagnetic force to help calm them. And then when we're kind of getting in there and you kind of shake your head and go, well, that's a bunch of malarkey. Don't forget that our dogs know when thunderstorms, and cats for that matter, know when thunderstorms are coming when they're in Chicago and we're here. Why? Changing the barometric pressures. Well, what technically does that do? That changes the electromagnetic forces. So they're feeling that stuff all the time. And that's why they know, if you have that dog that's really afraid, and I've had people come in, they're like, yeah, we know when those thunderstorms are hitting the western side of Chicago. Oh, yeah, that happens. And then that gives them at least enough time to start doing things. So really your thunder shirts, the theory behind them is the realistic theory from the company is the hugging effect. And it can help being the key word, because that's probably the biggest thing. If you think it's going to fix the problem, you're deluding yourself.
Right.
There are a few very, very, very mild cases where that's all, and it's great, but they usually still have that anxiety. They have that fear. They want to curl up next to you. They want to curl up underneath the covers, because that's a den. And that's probably your other issue there too, is they need to have a place where they can feel comfortable. If they're afraid of the fireworks and you sit there and go, here's your stuff and I'm leaving, we just talked about the herd and the pack mentality. We're messing them up, and that's probably a big thing too. And that's an individual management issue. I mean, you can't. Yeah, you got to make it up your own mind. I, as a doctor, can't sit there and go, well, you can't go anywhere when there's a thunderstorm, and you can't go anywhere when there's fireworks. But that does play a role because, like I said, that they're pack animals. They look for us just as much for comfort. Now, they will be shake and they will pace, and that's what we're trying to lessen.
Yes.
But you're not going to eliminate a dog without literally anesthetizing them or putting them to sleep.
Our 110-pound bloodhound.
Well,
He
I'm
would
thinking about
pace
animals in our cases too. When my little dog Troy, who's up in doggy heaven right now, he wouldn't have a problem. And I would jam my guitar, play music, all different types from rock to jazz to whatever. He loved music, but it was the weird. It was the
Out of
weird
the
thunder
ordinary, maybe.
or the big noises that would come through the walls. Maybe it was a thunderstorm. He'd freak. He'd like start barking and running around.
It's funny. My little
Seriously.
dogs are not affected, and any other dog we've ever had doesn't really seem to. They don't mind. But our bloodhound, he would just pace and try to cram his 110-pound body, he's tall and big dog, in the littlest spaces. He'd try to get under a table.
And what would you do?
Or under the bed. We would just laugh, and we'd let him do it if he wanted to. But if he wanted to be like up
By
against
you?
us, we let him do that. We just let him do whatever he wanted to do. But it was always funny. It was just a comical vision because he would just... his legs, he couldn't even fit under some things. He would try to. His legs would be hanging out, but he would be under there enough where he felt like he was happy.
Would you suggest...
He was looking for a den.
That's what I was gonna say.
Certainly.
Would you suggest at that point the mom and dad being you and your husband or the children grab the dog, or would you tell them they have their own space? Because that to me would be the next thing I would ask. Because I would just be kind of let them do their own thing. But
We
if I
just
wanted to
did.
pick them up, just pick them up like a little football.
Every dog's
He was a lot bigger. You could not hold him like a football. My little dogs.
Every dog's different. Every cat's different. Actually, cats have some of the same issues, but they're a lot more independent, and so they will go and they'll find themselves a place to hide and get away from and get in that safety. Dogs tend to be a lot different, just like people. Every dog's different. I don't know that you could say that because it depends on the dog and the situation, the fear and the anxiety, and the I guess the grade. It's just you could look in their eyes and go, okay, yeah, you're a little bit scared, but everything else is fine. Versus that they're trying to bust through the walls. Okay, so grade 0 to 10 there, you have to figure out which one it is. I'd say let them do what they do. Our dog has and has for the longest time until recently. She's always had some issues with fireworks, and we have another dog that doesn't like the fireworks, but I would say almost as far as that, does he have any anxiety? Not really, just doesn't like them. But our little girl, since she was young, thunderstorms, fireworks. Actually, the last couple of years, her hearing's gone, and from that standpoint, it's been a godsend.
Right.
Because she can't hear them, and so it does that. Little things like that are helpful. But before that, it would be nothing that. And she still gets this way with thunderstorms, and that's where we know about the pressure changes. But if she wants to curl up underneath the covers, fine. She's pacing around a lot. I mean, she gets her thunderstorm. We also have homeopathic stuff that's made out of England called storm stress, and they also have one something anxiety, and I can't remember what it is. But we use that a lot on her. There's some other supplemental things. Like I said, we didn't find that the melatonin and tryptophan worked on her. Some dogs it will, some dogs it won't. So, there's a lot of different things to try out there. And once you find kind of that magic, you stick with it, realizing that there is nothing that eliminates. And I think that's the key to your question with your storm and or fireworks. Nothing eliminates it.
Just managing it.
You just manage it. You try to it's just like a kid who wakes up from a dream. All right, you can't stop that from ever happening again. Can't stop them from being scared. You can't stop them from being afraid of the dark. All you can do is manage it. Can't, somebody who's afraid of the water, you can't stop that. Somebody who's afraid of flying, you can't stop that. All you can do is manage that. So if they want to, in your case, what do you do? If you have that individual that pace, yeah, you can try picking them up and putting them on your lap, or putting them on your lap and putting a sheet or cover over them so that they feel like they're in a den and they're next to somebody from their pack, and et cetera, and that can help. You can do your thunder shirts. You can do, like I said, the tryptophan, the melatonin, the Benadryl. There's the Cilio, which is the new compound that I was talking about that veterinarians are getting in now. You can do, being there is probably your biggie, and I know I'm forgetting some. Storm Stress, Composure's another product that's out there, and that's actually a derivative from the colostrum, or the first milk. And there's actually a calming effect. That's why after the first feedings, kittens, puppies, dogs, cats, horses, cows, whatever, babies, why they go to sleep after they eat, because there's actually a component in there, and I can't remember what they're terming the component, that causes a calming effect. And there's a lot of that stuff that's out there, and some of it works, but there's no one size fits all. It's actually and nobody likes to hear this, especially since medicine's supposed to be a science, trial and error. You have to find what works for your individual, and move from there, and know that this works, this helps. And I strongly, and if I were writing something out, this would be italicized, bolded, and capitalized. Helps, not eliminates the problem.
Right.
And I know of some dogs that just, as long as they got their thunder shirt on and they have a cover and they can go into their kennel, which is their den, they're fine.
That'd be a good video, by the way. You're hunting a little 10-pounder, trying to get underneath a chair that his legs can't even go underneath.
Oh yeah, or a bloodhound. I mean, he was that's why I joke, like picking him up. He's
no
like a
longer
horse.
with you?
He's not.
Yeah.
And so, you couldn't, we didn't mind the pacing. We just let him do what he needed to. And if he wanted to be with us, we didn't care. He's the dog you would lay and spoon on the floor, though, because he was so big. There's no way you could pick him up and put him on your lap and hold him. But it was funny. Now, I would like to know, Dr. Baldwin, for first-time pet owners, say this might be their very first pet and their very first experience with the fourth and stuff. Are there mild symptoms that they could watch for? Obviously, if their pet's spazzing out, they're going to know.
Yeah.
Correct.
But
good
mild
question.
anxieties.
Right.
What are some
Probably the first thing I would say is some of the anxieties are started by us. Especially if it's a first timer. Most of the time they won't have problems if they're used to that, if they're used to the play, if they're used to the, and you get them, actually if you get them excited about things like that, because when we, before we moved up here, we had one of the dogs, he loved fireworks. And I mean,
Well, but when you say love, like what? Just ran around?
Jumped
tail
up
wagging?
and down.
Really?
He would try to go grab them
Yeah.
before they'd fire off. Actually, it was we had to, when we were firing them off when our daughter was little, we had to hold him because there was one time that he went in one of those big cannon things. He went and grabbed it and tried to run around with it, and I'm
You're
just
like, whoa.
yeah, that's gonna blow up, take you, and cause problems, or shoot at us, or So I mean, he loved it. So every dog's different. Probably if you're a first timer, you're just starting out. You're gonna have to find out. I don't know that I personally would sit there and go, oh, let's take Fluffy down to the lake and watch the fireworks. Because that's probably a little too much. Although having if you didn't know you weren't going to have any kids that are going to freak out or anything else, it's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'd let pets anyhow, but I'd say that probably trying to help them not get scared would be great. Usually with your dogs, with your cats, dogs in particular, and your anxieties, regardless of the anxiety. Okay, and we're just talking about the noise here. They're normal. Something sets them off. Okay, we never know what it is. And you can use the quick analogy or story here. The dog out in the wild that's afraid. They're sitting there in their den, and the whole pack's in their den, and everything's all fine and dandy. And a big nasty thunderstorm comes through, and nobody has any problems. And the big whatever walks out of his den to check and make sure the coast is clear and the perimeter's secure, and right then lightning strikes and knocks a big limb down, and it hits him on the back, and now he's scared of thunderstorms for the rest of his life because of that one event. Okay, and so something sets him off. Will we ever find? Well, we probably will never know because we're not there when that initial thing starts. Did somebody shoot off fireworks, and at that point in time, George was on my lap, and I didn't realize it was coming, and I jumped up and threw him off of my lap, and he hit the floor. And now from that point on, thunderstorms, fireworks, remind him of being thrown off of my lap when he was comfortable. And so there is something that usually sets them off. So for the first timers, I have a new puppy, and we're not having probably the biggest thing is, I guess, trying not to teach them to be afraid of them, or not listening to the neighbor that says, "Oh my God, my dog freaks out," blah blah blah, and then you sit there and go, "Oh my God, what am I going to do all night and all night?" So that's the first thing. For us, we haven't done very much fireworks things for a long time because we have 2.5 of our guys that have issues, so we stay at home. If there's a big thunderstorm coming up, usually it's a matter of trying to lay with whoever needs it to try to keep them comfortable with everything else. And we do our own stew, so to speak, of things that we do. The supplements and the thunder shirts and the homeopathy remedies. So there's a lot of stuff out there, and we have our own mix that works for each one of them.
Do you at Animal Clinic of Michigan City, do you guys create for folks, you're a doctor, so when you're looking at these individuals, these animals individually, are you looking at each one saying, try this? You could actually help create that for them, correct?
That's pretty much what you do. And it's trial and error. I mean, do I come up with the formula? No, I'm like, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this? What's this work? Have you added this in? Have you done this dosage? What are you doing? What's your log say? No, I haven't ever added anything. Well, let's start adding things and see what happens. Did you get any responses out of these? Not that I'm aware. What about when you add them together? I mean, it's trial and error. And that's why I said when you get to the 4th of July, the 1st of January, those seem to be the two biggies. I guess first day of deer season if you're out in the country.
Oh, yes.
Those are the big things. It's too late.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like sitting there going, well, my tire's flat and I probably ought to air it up after it blows. It's too late to try to air it up. And that's kind of the way this is with your anxieties like that. It's a constant work in progress. And you got to start long before you're ready. And that way you have your doggy goody chest. And if you're like us and you have two, we have both of our guys react differently to different things. Now the thunder shirts, we like those. They work for us decently. So we have thunder shirts for both of them. Actually, we have a thunder shirt for our third one, although he never.
It literally is like a shirt.
Bad.
It literally goes on their paws and over their back.
It's Velcro. It's hard to explain because
it's like a jacket for the winter dog.
Yeah, it's kind of. It actually is very similar to the jackets, and then you have you can tighten and loosen the Velcro straps to give them more or less. I mean, if you get it on too tight, you'll know because they and it's a fabric enough to where they're stretched, but. If it's on too tight, they literally stand there like a sawhorse. They won't move.
That's a funny image,
It happens because the very first time we put one on for somebody. Actually, I think it was for our dog. The very first time we put it on, I mean, literally, she did not move.
So you knew right there?
What in the world is going? No, that's probably a little bit too tight. So then that's when
they got to be able to move, right?
Yeah, that's when you.
I think we need to loosen that up.
I think they can't breathe.
Well, no, they can still breathe. They just, and I don't know exactly what it is because there is a method in horses and cattle called casting where if you use a rope in certain spots, you can actually lay them down. So there are sets of, we'll call them nerve fibers, nerve bundles, that you can actually lay one down. And truthfully speaking, I think that probably some of the same ones are involved here because they, like I said, if it's on too tight, at least our little Dee Dee, she like stood there. I think you could have probably put a drink on her and walked away.
That's cute.
And so what we learned was that if that happens, unvelcro it and maybe be a little bit looser. But that's the theory behind it. Is it actually makes them feel, oh.
Do you guys have those at the animal clinic? Like, do you sell those?
I don't anymore because all the pet stores in the area started carrying
Sure.
them, so it was easier not to.
Right.
Right.
You know, and the big thing that I would say is because the sizes are not a one size fits all, and we have a few. Don't get me wrong. I think we have one of each size because we just sent one home the other day. There's not a one size fits all. Actually, there's lots of sizes. There's like extra, extra, extra small, all the way up to extra, extra large. And then when you look at your weight ranges on them, the weight ranges overlap.
Yes.
And so you actually have to fit the individual. You have to sit there and go, okay, well, George here needs either he needs a small or a medium. I don't know what you open one up, you put it on, you go, oh, we can't tighten that up, or you put one on and you go, oh my God, we can't get that tight enough.
Yeah, that's what's nice about some of the pet stores, that you can
Mm-hmm.
actually take your pets into. To have some of that help, because that's so true.
I would probably hazard to guess that almost every veterinarian probably, because about 5 or 6 years ago, we were about the only ones that could get them.
Really?
And so most of us probably have a stock.
Oh, good.
But there's, like I said, I know that they're in. I know Brandt's has them. I know PetSmart has them. If you head over into Valpo, the Pet Supplies Plus has them. If you get over into Maryville, the 5 or 6 different places they all have them. So pretty much, I sit there and say, yeah, you can come to go to your veterinarian, go to your pet store, wherever, and they're there. But the big key is don't buy it based on the size. You want the one that says Thundershirt. There's a few knockoffs. Thundershirt actually has a guarantee. The company does. But you want that one. You have got to take it out of the package before you buy it and make sure it's the right size. So take in your individual so that you know. And they actually make them now for cats too.
Oh,
for those
how
kids.
cute!
But yeah, you got to take them in, because they, like I said, the first one we took home when we got them in for our dog, we got it home, got it fitted on, and guess what? It's the wrong size, so I had to take it back the next day.
Yeah, what a pain.
So take them in with you wherever you go, so that you know. Call and make sure that they have them in stock before you load up and go in there, unless you're just going to buy something else. Because the last thing you want to do is get there and they're like, yeah, heard somebody on the radio talk about this, and we have none, and we will have none until the 6th of July. So call first.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are out.
Yes.
Well, and being so close, I think the doctor has a good point. If your pet has a serious anxiety, this is something you have to prepare for further out. But it's nice to know that there are things we can do last minute as well. This is a great spot to start your trial and error if you have not.
Agreed.
So, if nothing else, try some of these things. And I know the last time you were here, we talked a lot about pest related illnesses. And how they're more prevalent occasionally in spring and summer, and things we can do to protect them. But I'm curious to know, what are some of the risks and safety things that we should be preparing for other summer fun activities like swimming and boating and camping, hiking, biking. I know we can't hardly get on bikes. Our dogs want to go.
Yeah.
So a lot of times that's when I'd say I'll walk the dogs. Is there anything that we can do to better?
There are a lot of different ways depending on how inventive and how you want to go. And we used to have a client before he passed away that he and his 5 dogs went bike riding every day.
Wow.
But is that safe for a dog?
If you do it right.
It scares me. So tell us about that.
Because I'm thinking about running
number one,
with the
you
dog.
have to train them so that they don't decide to whip you off.
Right.
You got to start off early. You basically, it's training's no different than walking them. It is a little bit different, but okay, if you have that dog that you're walking, it's all over the place, and it wraps you around and everything else. Guess what? A bike's probably not the best thing for him or her.
Great.
Because if you can't get him to walk on a leash, there's no way he's going to be able to bike ride. But it can be done, and there's a lot of things out there that show how to do it. Gosh, he took all 5 of them at the same time. They all went
awesome.
as a herd.
I would be
in a
afraid
pack.
of my dogs trying to go towards especially Troy and some of the other dogs we've had, going towards the wheels. Like they're running alongside of you, and I'm riding.
Or trying to cut me
And
off.
you have to be.
Just cut me off.
And you have to be. And that's where it's, you got to start with, are they leash broke?
Yeah.
Because I still have I got a dog at home that he's you put him on a leash and he's all over. But could he ever go on a bike? Absolutely not.
Right.
He'd kill himself and us.
And you too. That's the point.
So you have to. Yeah, you have to start them. You have to start them like you would with just leash walking, and it can be done. Okay, can you take them camping with you? If where you're going camping allows animals, sure can. I have clients that do that too. We have a staff member that does that. That's no different than hey, guess what? there are places in the state that you can take your horses and camp. And people who have horses know that.
Right.
Because they go. There are actually parks that just are, that's it. And you look for your parks that have that, because there are state parks and national parks that say, we have horse trails, that's it. You can't stay overnight here.
Right.
You have to come and leave. And there are some of them that say, oh, yes, we have actually designated equine camping spots so that you and your horses
cool.
and
Yeah, it's
everybody
really
else
neat.
can come and camp and be there. So, yeah,
didn't
you
know
know,
that.
It's
and
fun.
there's places that will allow dogs, and there's some that won't. I'd say probably your biggie is jump online and check, number one. Number two, be cautious and considerate of everybody else. You should take doggy bags with you.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than watching your neighbor's dog walk just outside of your camping spot and do something, and you sit there and you wait for a few hours and hopefully they're going to do something, and they never do. You know, so you have to be considerate, and you have to do, and you have to sit there and go, okay, if my dog's pooping, everybody else's dog's pooping.
Absolutely.
Is my dog wormy? Are their dogs wormy? Did their dog just visit that raccoon that came through and he's wormy?
Wow.
So, you know, you have to be considerate, because last thing you want, that's one of the reasons actually, if you go back in time long enough ago, that most of your beaches and your parks and whatnot used to not allow animals because of the parasites. There are some parasites that are passed to people. Okay, and so it was a don't bring your dog here. And it wasn't because of anything else, because there were, you know, it was mostly because don't bring your dog here, because if he poops and you don't clean it up and you give Joe Blow down the road a case of migrating larvae that destroys his liver, you're killing him.
Right,
Don't bring your
right,
dog here,
that's
because we don't
terrible.
want to be responsible.
I'm glad you. Go ahead.
I was
Go
going
ahead,
to say,
please.
quick question, just real quick, if you guys don't mind, related. You said swimming.
Yes,
And I didn't
that's
think
what I was
about
gonna
this.
bring up.
Okay, so the question
I
one
bet
was
you we're
from
thinking
Zach
the same
P,
thing.
who's
Oh.
listening online in Chicago, going to be making his way this way, but says, my dog usually jumps into my mom and dad's pool, you know, during the holidays. Is that bad? Someone said that chlorine is bad for their skin. Can you ask the doc to elaborate? That's a.
It is. My dog's always swimming.
But that might be bad. Is that bad?
It might be.
Chlorine can be. Oh. Okay. And there's a lot of factors.
My
here.
dogs love it.
You know, how much of a shock is the chlorine in the pool? How long are they in there? How often do they go in there? Are they used to it? Does it dry their skin? Are they drinking it? I mean, it's just like us. If you drink enough chlorine, it's going to cause a problem. Guess what? It takes a lot of chlorine to do it, but it can. Now, I do have some guys that'll get in the pools that they'll end up, because dogs are going to drink it. Period.
Yeah, they are.
And it'll cause some loose stools, some diarrhea, and then you have that because you've messed up the normal flora in the gut. Okay, not that the chlorine was poisonous, because it does take a lot. If they jump in, they jump out, and they jump in, they jump out, and guess what? You hose them off, and you try to get a lot of that chlorine off before they dry. That'll help.
Okay.
There, you know, also depends on the dog and how oily the dog is. You know, if it's a dog that doesn't have a lot of oils. Naturally doesn't have a lot of oils and gets in the water, that's going to probably cause more problems than that dog that has a lot and can reduce a lot. But chlorine does tend to help break down the normal barrier too. So, you know, if they're in there swimming all weekend long and you're letting that chlorine dry, okay, it's no different than people. You know, I remember as a kid when I would go visit a friend and swimming in a pool, because I grew up swimming in a pond. You know, all that chlorine, boy, my hair by the end of the week of spending the week with him was hard and brittle and everything else. Why? Because we jump in and we play, we jump in, we play, we jump in, we play. Do you know why they have showers at places like that and they have bathing facilities? It's to wash all that stuff off of you.
Yeah.
Whether you soap it or not, at least rinse that off. Well, we didn't do that as kids.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Why would you get out of the pool and go get in the shower?
Right.
Yeah, you know,
What
we
was your,
do.
swimming question.
Oh, my swimming question was about the lakes. So I'm glad you brought up, you know, taking your pets on the lakes. A lot of people do that or take their pets boating with
yeah.
them. So swimming, are there, I've heard and, you know, you see life jackets for dogs.
What?
For one, do they really actually work?
Most of them, well, it depends on where you go. There are a lot of them that do, and that actually, a lot of that comes truthfully from, you offend some people here, and I apologize, the hunting industry.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of your good quality dog products come from the hunting / working industry. Why? If I took my black lab out and we're going to go hunting here, I want him safe, because if he's spending all day jumping in the cold water in the during whatever season, and we need to keep him warm, and we need to make sure that if he gets tired, he doesn't drown.
That's what I was going to
yes.
ask. Is that the theory? Since dogs do swim, is it just they can tire out and tucker out?
Yep. And depending on the temperature of the water and whatnot, and most of them are not, they're having so much fun. They're like a little kid. They're not, I guess, frankly, they're not smart enough to sit there and go, okay, it's time to call it quits. Especially if there's one of their buddies out there, they have 3 kids that they're playing with, and one goes and takes a break, but the other 2 are still out there playing. Guess what? Fido's going to be out there playing with those 2. So then the other one goes take a break, and the first one comes back. Fido's still going to be out there with him. And the third one takes a break. Fido's still out there. Guess what? He's getting tired. Actually, a lot of your better devices come from the hunting industry, and I say that because guess what, if you're really looking for something good, I would probably refer you to a sports store or a hunting store, i.e. MC Sports here in town. There's Bass Pro, there's Gander, Cabela's down the road. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, so don't hold that against me. That's probably some of your best places to go. Some of your boating stores that do nothing but boating, I bet you they could find a place if they don't have anything. I don't do, we don't boat, so I can't speak towards that. But I am certain that B&E Marina, they either have stuff or they know about stuff. And again, just pulling them out because I know the Benzes. So if I miss another place,
Someone
again,
just
I'll
said
apologize.
Big R.
Okay.
Oh,
Big
there
R.
you go.
I didn't even think about Big R.
But you're going to want to know who's making them. But I could see Big R.
Yeah.
So a lot of it comes to the who's making the products too.
Okay.
Because if somebody said I've been making this product since the 70s, and my hunting lab has cronked out because he was too cold and he was floating there in the pond and this saved his life, I'd be like, oh, that's the device I want.
Right, absolutely.
So it's it's no different than people. The good news about our life jackets is they have to pass specs.
Right.
Okay.
Regulations.
When you're dealing with animals, you have to find an ethical company that's making them.
Okay.
And who will sit there. If somebody said, hey, I will guarantee this, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll guarantee you the life of this product, and that's who I'd probably go for.
Okay.
So yes, there's some really good products, and yes, they really do work out there. It's kind of like there's actually some really good warming products out there again too. And here's your thing: if I were going to choose something for in the wintertime for my dog to wear, because we were going out and he was going to be out in the snow all day long, guess where I would be looking at? I would probably be looking at, again, the hunting industry.
Okay. Yeah.
Or the
That makes
working
sense.
class industry. I'd be sitting there going, I wonder what they use up in Alaska.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So for my dog that's not as furry as some of the others, but he's going to be on the trail with us. So, that's where I'd be looking.
Okay.
Can I give any direct advice? No.
Okay.
But I would be looking at those, and like I said, in this case, for protection for your animals. In all honesty, hunting, and if you're an anti-hunter, I'm sorry about that, but they honestly have probably the biggest following to help make sure it's safe and it works and it's effective. Because if Hunter A did not like his life vest, guess what? Hunter B through infinity is going to know about it through word of mouth.
Yes.
There's not going to be any of this internet, this was bad. It's going to be I heard through.
Right.
So for them, it's word of mouth. So that's actually, they're probably some of the best places to go.
That makes perfect
1
sense.
minute left on our final thought. Great show.
I appreciate you being
going to
Dr.
use this
Baldwin.
minute here because I've been wanting to talk about this for 3 times and I haven't
Let's
been
do
able
it.
to.
1 minute left. Let's go.
Wanted to sit there and send everybody to our Facebook, and I think it's just Animal Clinic in Michigan City, or you can call the clinic at 879-0249 and see what they're on. My dog blew his back out about 6-8 weeks ago, and we have been adjusting and lasering him, and we actually put up some videos of the first 3 to 4 days of progress where he could barely use his back legs, and after 3 or 4 days of lasering and adjusting, he was more normal. You can still see a little bit of hunchback, and he wasn't great, but so I wanted to throw that out to let everybody know that there is some alternative therapies, and I know we talked about that about 6 or 7 years ago. out there that can be effective. But go on and look at that, because I really pleased
That's
with
really
it. It is my
neat.
dog, so I don't have to disclaim of anybody on there. He is mine. It did happen. It was me that did everything with the therapy, and then my daughter took the videos. So
How
it's
awesome
out there
job.
on Facebook for everybody to look at.
Well, thanks, Doctor.
Someone just said, tell the doc we hope his dog is better and we love him. Have him back.
Thank you.
We will definitely have you back. We appreciate you coming today, and hope that our listeners out there that do have animals that are going to have anxiety going into the holiday weekend, try some of these things.
Yes.
I'm Rick Federici.
I'm Mary Anthony.
And you're
Thanks.
listening to AM 1420 WIMS Michigan City, a Girard Media Company, Younger Life Live as well.
CBS News. I'm Steve Kathan. Concern and confusion this morning at the sprawling Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. Reports of an active shooter and a lockdown. Some said it was a drill. The Homeland Security Chief called it an unfolding situation. CBS's Steve Dorsey is there.
The all clear has been given following reports of an active shooter. The focus was on a base medical center. The base was quickly put into lockdown. Outside the hospital, some people left the building with their hands up as canine units patrolled the area. There was a planned exercise for an active shooter today.
And CBS's David Martin says the Pentagon says there are no indications of an active shooter or shots fired. In a report just out, the Navy says the 10 U.S. sailors held by Iran earlier this year showed poor judgment, weak leadership, and a lack of war-fighting toughness. Retired Navy judge advocate Lawrence Brennan's now a professor at Fordham Law School.
The customary Navy obsession with careful planning and execution of any mission, but particularly a mission in those waters, seems not to have been met.
The report says the crew ignored some rules and committed a string of errors.